主持的这个演讲哈。今天我们有个非常难得的机会哈，我们刚好跟在前几个礼拜在台北跟美罗法大学的创办人还有在亚洲地区的总监，我们做过一次交流，然后我们很欢迎各位今天来，我们很高兴能够邀请 Kenn Rose 是台湾地区的就是英语总监，希望今天来这边跟大家特别说一下有关于就是美罗法大学在一个非常特别的新创教育团体在教育制度上做什么事情。So following in English, welcome everybody. So it's a great opportunity and honor for us for Collegiate to invite Mr. Kenn Rose, the Managing Director in the Asia area in the Minerva University, and he will come to give a talk about this very special university, educational initiative, and all the other interesting things. And maybe after this talk, we can actually exchange a lot of things related to education for our students, for our faculty, or our staff. So let's welcome Kenn Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Okay, I'm Kenn. Before I ask whom you all are, everyone in the back, come on up here. Come on. Come on. That's right. At least the last 3-4 rows. You don't come up here, I'm not going to say anything. Come on up. Well, no one's in the front row. Nobody wants to be in the front row, okay? Who else? Come on, come on. Yes, yes, you ladies. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I love it. Come on, no, seriously. 你们不过来，我就不演讲。过来，
讲中文的，
过来，过来。Seriously, please. Because it's a small group here, only, and it's an intimate group. We don't say small, it's intimate. Okay. So I'm Kenn. Thank you, Professor Hong, for the introduction. And who are you? I mean, how many of you are students? Students. You look like a student too. Do we have any? I know we have some faculty. Yes, some faculty. Okay, also faculty too. Anybody else I missed? Students, faculty, staff? You know, a couple of staff. Alrighty. Great. So we have some time today, but I don't want to talk too much because I certainly want to hear your ideas and your questions. And feel free, I'm going to speak mainly in English because I do it a little better in English, but I do speak and understand Chinese. So if you have questions or ideas or suggestions and you want to share in Chinese, please, you should do that. Great. So, thanks for the invitation, right? And the introduction. Been asked to come and speak a little bit about university for the future. However, I have some bad news. It could be bad news. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about university for the future. Disappointed? Ooh, maybe the clicker doesn't work. I am going to talk about, you know what? Let's see if it works. Go ahead. Maybe closer. That's odd. I can do it myself too. Oh no, that's weird. Well, you know what? It's not coming through here. 1 second. That's odd. Why could that be? Pull it back out again? Sure. We could do that. It certainly does that right. Let me see. No, not yet. It should change, but it's not changing. It should change, but it's not changing. Let me see what that could be. You see how it goes here, but it doesn't go up there? Yeah. 这有点怪怪的. End show. Okay. Let me see if this is actually going to work. Let me see. Ah, brilliant. Right. So, originally you were thinking you're going to come talk about university in the future. But no, not going to do that. Let me talk about university for now. It's interesting, don't you find that people, we as human beings, always talk about the future, right? What's going to happen in the future, right? And it's an easy thing to talk about because you just have to talk about it. Because the future, that's going to happen sometime then. That's not now. And oftentimes when we talk about the future and just put something in the context of just the future, it doesn't necessarily give us that urgent pressure, the urgent catalyst to actually do something now. So I want to talk about university for now. Because whether you like it or not, the future, what I find people often talk about and define as the future, it's already here. People talk about, in the future, machines are going to take all of our jobs. Right? AI is going to do this, is going to do that. That's already happened. That started before many of you were born. That started decades ago. The complexity of the world in the future is going to be so great as to make it unmanageable for people in government, for people in business. Right? That already started happening a long time ago. The future has been with us for a while. That also means that in terms of education, and particularly in terms of university education, there is an urgent need to reform. All these changes that people often describe as the future, they've already been with us. There's a need for education to adapt. And yet, as many of us know, it's been very challenging for many great institutions of higher education, many universities around the world. It's been very challenging for them to meet the needs of those, roll with those changes. Yeah. But there's a very strong need for reform. I'll talk about these couple of things. Also then, I want to offer today an idea for a solution. It happens to be our solution as to how to bring these, oftentimes what people talk about, these many needs about what universities should be in the future, what I will argue should be now. It's about bringing this reform into universities in the present time, right? And I'll share with you one particular solution that many of us have been working on. It's not something we're going to do. It's something we've already started to do in the past, several years from now. But a solution for reform in higher education. But first, just in case anybody needs a reminder as to why it's important to reform, why it's important to change, right? Our old friend Charles Darwin. I always like this quote. In fact, I like this so much, I put it, well, this is the official, I think, Chinese translation. It's not my translation. 能够生存下来的物种，并不是那些最强壮的，也不是那些最聪明的，而是那些对变化做出最快速的反应的。Right? The ones most adaptable to change. You change or you cease to exist. This is true with species of all kinds. It's true species of schools, types of education. You change or you cease to exist. In fact, now that we're talking about future versus current, or future versus present, or future versus past, the 淘汰, the 优胜劣汰 process, right, for universities is not something that I'm saying is going to happen in the future. It has started already. I've heard it's actually happening in Taiwan, a bit. I know it's happening in the United States, where I'm originally from. And what this is, what I'm talking about, is the closing or the going away of institutions, of schools that have not been able to stay relevant. So keep this in mind as you think about how higher education can and should reform, right? A lot has been said, a lot has been written. We don't need to go into this a lot about many of the changes that are actually happening in our current environment, in our current world. Sometimes I talk about this in terms of the workforce, careers, because oftentimes for students in university, it's a very visceral, it's a very real and tangible type of issue. Right? You've been in school all of your lives. You're getting to the point where you may graduate and actually go into the workforce and actually begin to work. But the workforce, amongst many other things in the world, is changing very rapidly. We know this. Right? People talk about what is most important in work nowadays. I would argue what's most important in life nowadays. Right? Also very interesting because they talk about this also in terms of the future, 2022. Still 2 years from now. The reality is, the ability to apply these skills and competencies is important now. It was important 10 years ago. It was important several decades ago. Right? Now, not in the future, or not only the future. So even though the world has already changed so much, and the pace of change actually increases all the time, at least has been increasing the past several decades in particular, we also know that many of the world's great academic institutions are facing a number of systemic issues. Some of these systemic issues may be relevant only for schools in some countries, but a lot of them are relevant for institutions everywhere. Probably the one that I hear about globally from people everywhere has to do with the skills gap, the gap between what you all, as students, or those of you who are students, need for success, regardless of what you do in your lives, career or not career, whatever career you're talking about, the skills necessary for success, and frightening enough in many cases, the inability of some of our world's greatest universities to actually impart these skills in an effective way into learners, onto students. Even after 4 years. This huge thing they call the skills gap. Very interesting, sometimes a little bit daunting, particularly if you happen to be somebody who's in university nowadays. Right? Another problem I know that we have in the United States, we also have in many countries, is oftentimes because of problems of relevance, sometimes because of the lack of relevance in university education, university systems around the world. Many students never even finish their university studies. Some people do only because their parents say, you better finish. Not because what they believe they're studying or the experience that they're having is actually relevant. Right? And I could continue to go on about many, many, many issues. Suffice to say that in many ways, so many systemic ways, a 14th century classroom, including somebody sleeping in the back, in many ways has remained unchanged. Right? It's only the how, the environment, some of the what that we've been teaching at the university level for sometimes decades, sometimes centuries, has not changed. Sometimes centuries. I started off by talking about just some of the changes that have happened in the past few years or the past few decades. Some of the ways that we do things, like this lecture we're having here, oh boy, have been going on for a lot longer, right? But yet we know nowadays that they're not necessarily the most effective ways for the brain to actually learn. Okay. I think because all of us here either work for a university as faculty or as maybe a staff, attend the university as a student, 多多少少 we are somewhat aware, very personally so, of what's good about modern traditional universities in a modern context, what is deficient about them. Right? And so it should not be a surprise, or perhaps many of you will agree, that we really need to rethink, to redesign the what, the how, and even the where of how we teach, right? Of how students actually learn, or what the university structure actually looks like, what the system actually looks like. Not individual classes, or not only individual classes or individual courses or individual departments. I'm talking about systemic reform and systemic change. Maybe not all at once. Don't want to sound too scary. Things, sometimes there is a process and they do take time. But remember, the future arrived a long time ago, and much of higher education is a little bit behind the curve. Okay? So what would this actually look like? Right? If you rethought the what, the how, and the where, sort of the curricular structures, right? What people actually learn, how they actually learn, the pedagogical methodologies, right? The where, the classroom settings, right? If you rethought this and redesigned this in a 21st century context, what would that look like? 换句话来讲, if you could, any of you, recreate something like a university, whatever you want to call it, a college, right? Just you start from scratch, start from nothing. 一张白纸, right? And you want to create a more ideal university model. What would that look like? Think about that as I go through some of this. Think about if there are any 共同点 for what I'm sharing. I'm going to share with you one solution for education reform, but it's not necessarily the only one, right? That's for sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what to learn. Hopefully this doesn't get too boring, because lectures are sort of boring when I'm lecturing. Maybe I should ask some questions. So, when you think about what is most important to learn in a modern context, what do you think about? What do you think? Let me start asking people, right? What should you learn in college, in university? 没人举手，我会点名。Right? What do you think? I mean, you're university students, right? I'm sure you have majors, I know that, and stuff like that. What should you study? What's most important for you to take out of university as you go into the world? Think about the world nowadays, and what we don't know what it's going to be like in 5-10 years, other than the fact that it's going to be different. What should you study? Tell me. What should you study? What should you learn? Responsibility. Define responsibility a little more. What do you mean by that? You can, in Chinese too as well if you want. What do you mean by responsibility? Something beneficial for society. Okay. Something beneficial for society and responsibility. Okay? What else? What should you learn in university? What should you take away from it? What should you be able to do by the time you leave university? Yes? Communication skills. Okay? Cool. What else? You know?
我觉得我没有办法决定说我从大学要带走什么是最重要的，因为其实我不是很了解未来的趋势是什么，然后我不是很了解我最关心的事情是什么，然后因为我没有关心的事情，所以我不知道学习什么是最重要的。
Because you don't know, right, you don't know what the future is going to look like, so...
And what should I care?
What should you care? Well, you shouldn't care about anything you want to care about. But I see your point, right? So we don't, you know, right? What else? What should you study? What should you learn?
We can learn how to be a human.
How to be a human. What do humans do? What should humans do well? What do humans do? Right? What are some attributes of being human?
How to be a complete, not like a defective person.
How to be a what person? Complex. I didn't hear.
Just
complex.
defective. Some be a human means you need to fulfill yourself and connect to society.
Connect. Okay. Look at that's a good thing. Connect to society. Interact with society effectively. Right. Okay. Somebody else had I saw some. I thought back there. Yeah.
学会怎么赚钱。
Maybe one more. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Learn to survive, right? What do you need to survive, though?
I mean that if you, for example, you graduate from the school, you can support for yourself.
Right.
And then in terms of now the crisis, you can learn how to survive as an individual or as a society in
Right.
a collective way to peacefully and healthily go through all these crises.
All this crisis. Interesting. Fascinating. Yes, I mean, I would say, I mean, I noticed that when pretty much everybody's feedback to this, or thoughts on this, really had nothing to do with content. Could be an answer. Nobody said, I need to study engineering. And maybe you like engineering, which is a cool thing to study, but no one said, you got to study business. 有人说要赚钱, right? But they didn't say you need to study business. There's a difference between learning how to make money and study business, right? Nobody said you need to study history. Very interesting, huh? Yet, who is majoring in responsibility? Are you majoring in responsibility? Are you majoring in effective communication? How about interaction? Is that your major? Probably because maybe there aren't those majors around. So, what we believe, right? Certainly we at Minerva as an institution, we fundamentally believe two very, very important aspects of the what, right? What universities should be teaching, what people should be effectively learning, right? And the first of these, what I would call these habits of mind, right? 思维习惯, transferable skills, 转换能力, right? Competencies. You saw a lot of them in that list. Remember that World Economic Forum list of those, a lot of words on that page, right? And in fact, pretty much everything that everybody said were these meta competencies, right? That relate to these habits of mind, not specific subject matter. Subject matter is great. It's great to have a major. It's great to have a concentration. But one, you're going to forget most of the content you learn in university anyway. You can't retain it all. Our brains won't retain it all. Two, by the time you graduate from university, much of the content you learn will be obsolete, particularly in technical fields. What we believe is perhaps most important, even if you forget every bit of content you learn, right, is to learn a structured set, right, a taxonomy of sorts, right, of these transferable skills, right, that can and are applied in different subject areas, right? This is what we call habits of mind, right? Try to get into this a little bit more. So we talked a lot about, I heard you say a lot of things that relate to these meta competencies, these 宏观技能, right? Things like the ability to think critically or think creatively, or the ability to, actually two of you specifically said, to communicate effectively and to interact effectively, right? And the interesting thing about these four big meta competencies is that they're not just four skills. They're actually comprised of many different subcomponents, right? These key abilities, again, cognitive processes, right? 认知能力、认知思维、认知过程、流程, right? That you actually can apply to engineering fields. You can apply them to history, right? You can apply them to biology, you can apply them to social sciences. In fact, this is what we do in life. Take these core abilities and you apply them everywhere. As I'm saying this, think about how any education system that you've experienced or heard of in the past actually does this, right? But this is exactly what Minerva does. it takes these meta competencies, these things, it breaks them down into dozens. In our case, we use about 80, 80条左右, of these cognitive abilities, right? Not content. I'm not talking about content, right? And then what it does is it has students use content to practice these abilities in many different contexts, in many different many different content, many different 不同的学科领域, right? Think about it. So you're taking one, let's just take for example one of these we'll use one of my favorites. So second order effects. One of these 80 habits of mind, 其中的一条思维习惯叫做, we have names for these? It's called second order effects, 次等反应. What's a second order effect? Those of you who study perhaps biology, some people learn this in biology context or something. Second order effect, or 次等反应. What's a 次等反应? Nobody knows?
Something that isn't built into yourself.
Louder, please.
Something that isn't built into yourself. It's not your instinct reaction.
I still can't do it. It's not instinct reaction, right? Go ahead. 再大声一点. Just 大声一点. I just can't hear because I'm far away.
Use the microphone.
Oh, use the microphone. Yeah. It's on. It's on.
So it's something that it isn't your instant reaction. It's built into
It's built into another reaction. Right? Okay. Anybody else have a different? I'm not saying you're wrong. Does anyone else have a different idea for what is a second order effect? No one studies second order effects. Right? Second order effect, similar to what the fellow back there actually said. Right? It's the idea that when you introduce an element into a system, right, that element hopefully will have the intended effect, but it might also have follow-on effects that are unintended. It may have unintended consequences. Right? A very common example, 贵校有教学医学吗？有医学。But no, that's right, you have a medical school, right? Is anyone in medical school here? Professor in medical school? Second order effects. You guys do this every day. Every day, right? Are you a physician? You a doctor? Good. I rarely get a doctor in these discussions. This is good, because I have a question. I'll wait for you in a minute when we get to FAR transfer. This is great. So, every medical school, we'll talk about the idea, we'll teach. You may not necessarily call it second order effects, right? You may call it side effects. But don't you teach, every student learns, it's beat into her brain over and over again in medical school, that when you 诊断 a patient has the illness, right? And you know what perhaps medication you want to prescribe, right? You will always ask them some things, right? And I'm gonna see if they know what those things are in a second, right? So this concept of second order effects, right? Which is relevant in biology, it's relevant in medicine, right? I'm going to show you in a minute why it's relevant in other places as well. And I'm also going to show you why the concept of FAR transfer, right, which is the second critical element. So we talked about there are all these habits of mind, right, that are very, very important to be able to apply in life, right? And I also mentioned, as we're going to show in a second, that they're relevant in different areas. They're not just, second order effects, side effects is not something that's just relevant in medicine. But yet, it's oftentimes not taught anywhere else outside of medicine. But it needs to be. And when we talk about the nervous system, it is taught and it is learned in multiple areas. And the reason why is because of FAR transfer. What do I mean by FAR transfer? Who knows what FAR transfer means? You want to guess? 原生角转移 FAR transfer. That's a bad translation. I'll tell you, because outside of the science of learning or cognitive science, not everybody knows about this. So it's the idea of learning a concept in one context and then being able to apply it, to freely apply it, to naturally apply it in another context. What's that? Right? There's an expression for that? So yeah, probably better than my translation. Right? Think about that. Learning something in one context. Right? However, as cognitive scientists will also tell you, the human brain is terrible at this naturally. We're not good at this. This is biology. Right? We're not good at naturally far transferring. We can train our brains to do it better, but we're bad at it naturally. And I'm going to prove it. Okay. Far transfer. Right? So, don't answer this question yet, please, because you're the physician, right? But I want to ask everybody else. So again, when you go to the doctor, right, and you have some illness, and the doctor, she looks at you and she says, I know what's wrong with you, and she wants to prescribe medication, right, for your sickness, right? And before she does that, she will ask you, well, at least two questions. And again, this relates to second order effects. Let's get back to this. Let's use this one habit of mind in multiple contexts. First, in a biology context. What is she going to ask you? Think about it. Obviously, nobody's in the medical school other than the profession medical school. Fortunately, so you never go to the doctor. Everyone's healthy, right? Yeah. If you go to the doctor a lot, don't answer yet, right? Think about it. You go to the doctor. You ever been to the doctor? No? Well, that's good for you. I go sometimes, but I'm usually pretty healthy. Go to the doctor. And say you have just like some sore throat. And she wants to give you the medication. But before she gives you the medication, she will ask you two questions. What is she going to ask you? And think about second order effects. Put it in the context of 次等反应, right? What is she going to ask you? Or side effects. Make it easier. Yes? Okay, exactly. She's allergic. That's one, correct? We have the expert here. Awesome. What else? What else would she ask you other than allergy? Okay, number two, correct? Yeah. Are you taking any other medication? Because what any medical school, right, will teach physicians is that this idea of side effects, or what we call second order effects. When you introduce an element into a system, in this case a biological system, the body, you know, 它是个复杂系统来的身体啊 right? 你引进一个新的因素 right? It may have the intended consequences, it may cure your disease, but 也许会有次等反应 right? You're allergic to it, it kills you, right? You're taking other medication, 对冲 the other medication maybe has no effects, maybe it also kills you. Right? It has unintended consequences, right? 二等反应, 三等反应, right? And the ability to think about this, right? And to understand that this is a factor in a complex system, right? Is something that every doctor learns. Right? Great, right? It's important, right? In medicine. You agree? It sounds like it's important, right? Sounds like it's important. It is. Okay. But what about far transfer, right? Because even this one concept, 光这条思维习惯, is also relevant in other areas. Let me ask another question. The government is considering a new law. 政府在考虑颁发一条新的法律, right? 你不要管它什么法律法规, right? But they want to introduce a new law. And as part of the process, 它不是征求民众的意见嘛, at least in a democracy they do. So they ask your opinion, right, on this new law. You, even as a citizen, right, let alone as a legal expert who may be a consultant for it, What do you need to know about this law? What do you need to know about this law? Remember, we're far transferring here. We're taking one concept in one area and we're being able to recognize it and apply it to another area. Far transfer. What do you need to know about the new law? Yes, ma'am.
What will it change my life?
How will it change your life? You know how it's going to change your life. You know why? The law says you can't walk on this side of the street down there. So you know you maybe have to walk on that side of the street, you have to do something else. So you know directly how it's going to change your life. How that law in itself is going to change your life. Hint, hint. What else, what more importantly do you need to know? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any punishments if I follow the law?
I can't hear. Yes? How?
Is there any punishment?
Is there any punishment? You know, if you walk on that side of the street, 你要上枷锁的，像古代一样的上枷锁。You know that. But what else, what do you need to know? You're all smart people, but we are human beings and our brains are very bad at far transfer by nature. Smart people still can't figure this out. Let me prove it again. Because you're a physician, right? I know this is in a medical context. What do you think? Do you have any idea what you should ask the government?
What does it do good for myself?
You know that most likely. And other people, right? You know that. You know. But continue with that, actually, because it's. Go ahead.
会不会对从现在就有的？
And if I dare say, are you a medical student? No, right? Yeah. And actually, this is so. With all due respect, this is why this is interesting. Even a physician, right, if I may, I'm not picking on you, who knows this like the back of his hand, right? 了若指掌, right? He knows this concept in a medical setting. It was still challenging to think about it in another setting, a legal setting. Social sciences, completely 完全不同的领域. But this habit of mind, right? This way of thinking, this 思维习惯, is also relevant in this context, and that's why it's important. Why? 同样就跟身体一样，身体也是个复杂系统, right? And you 引进的新的因素, it may have a, 一等反应、二等反应, right? The same thing with legal system. 法律系统也是个复杂系统. When you introduce a law that says you cannot walk on this side of the street, it has consequences for yourself. You don't walk on that side of the street. Well, guess what? Maybe you walk on the other side of the street, which becomes too crowded, and some people spill over onto the road, and then there are more accidents because people get hit by cars on that side of the road. 次等反应. So we spent a bit of time there, a lot of time there, to talk about this one. This is one concept, right? One of these 思维习惯, and we only talked about transferring it to one other area. What about if you have a multi-year education system that takes the 几十条, or maybe you want to use 几百条, 我们自己用几十条 of these similar types of 思维习惯, and then has students learn them and practice them in many different areas. So you learn 自动反应 not just in natural sciences and not just in social sciences, you learn it in business. You learn it in arts and humanities. You learn it in the computational sciences. You learn, your brain learns to far transfer, which, as we've shown now, it doesn't do naturally very well, even though you're very smart. It has nothing to do with intelligence. This is just biology. Think about that. So here we talked about the what, right? What should people learn in university? Regardless of what you study. It's great to have a major, that's fine. But what you should learn and what you should take away is the ability to learn these cognitive skills, these cognitive tools, and apply them in many areas such that you can recognize them in new areas. In fact, we would say that this is the holy grail, the 最高境界 of education. Okay. Whew. Talked a lot about the what, and maybe, hopefully that made some sense, right?
Can we interpret like imagination?
Can we? Oh, yeah, that's better if I, could you?
Interpret like enhance your imagination.
You can, some aspects of it, yes. But you need the structured tools. Often, I say because oftentimes we think of imagination as no structure, right? But actually, effective imagination oftentimes builds on a lot of structure. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so in this, certainly what we do with Minerva, we're thinking about potential solutions for how to make higher education more relevant. Wouldn't it be great to learn these cognitive tools, practice them in multiple contexts, such that they become like a 思维习惯, like a natural reaction. The next thing has to do with the how. We believe that a more ideal educational model, right, should be all about active learning. Right? Why? Well, simply put, because research shows what you already know already. You already know that if you are actively engaged in your learning, either through discussions, through working out problems, either yourself or with others, rather than passively learning, right? You just learn more effectively, you learn more, regardless of the subject matter. Why are you going to forget most of what I say today? Because you're passive. This is a lecture. And we know, and the reason why this is always painful, well, I should know this, the reason why this is painful to me to lecture is because at Minerva, in our system, we don't have a single one of these lectures. Imagine a university experience, 4 years, right, with not a single lecture in 4 years. Every single class that you go to is a highly interactive, highly engaging, very intimate, Socratic discussion-based experience. Labs may be a little bit different if you do labs, certainly, right? But the labs can be very interactive to begin with. Right? So you do away with a lecture. You bring in all of the pedagogical tools that science, that learning science, has shown are effective. And you throw away everything else. Right? That's what everybody should do. Right? However, those of us who are professors and teachers know it's pretty easy to lecture. Lecture's been around for a while, right? It may be a relatively efficient way to teach because I can speak to 300 people in the same amount of time as I can speak to 3 people or to 1 person. It's efficient. 高效 in terms of teaching. It is a horrible way to learn, and the science shows that. And that is why in our solution of a more relevant university system, it's all about fully active learning, right? And again, there's a lot of science behind that. Okay. I'll mention this finally. Let's talk a little bit about the where. So, years ago, when we stepped back and we said, how could we make, again, a much more effective, efficient school model, university structure model, right? How could we reform things in a much more ideal way? We realized that in the current context of the 21st century, we really should and we can create a very data-rich environment where you're constantly collecting, right, detailed data about the progress of individual students. Right? You're also collecting data on professors and teachers, but you're also collecting a lot of data about students. Right? However, to do so, we realize you have to use technology. Right? But interestingly enough, what we found you could do is to take technology, again, in a 21st century context. You couldn't do this 20 years ago. You certainly couldn't do it even before. Right? But you could take technology and create a much more both intimate and engaging classroom, right? And again, also one that allows you to amass, for the benefit of student learning, so it allows you to amass much more data on individual performance of students. Now, Has anyone here met a Minerva student, like from Minerva schools? Has anybody ever met one? I ask because right now in Taipei there are like 100 of them. So they're actually in Taiwan. Anyway, I ask because it would be interesting opportunity to also have them talk about some of this as well. Right? So you can use technology to create a much more intimate, engaging, but also sort of trackable or traceable learning environment, right? That can then work to optimize learning outcomes on an individual student level. Maybe that's heavy duty. Maybe it's not that heavy duty. I don't know. It's almost like you'd have to experience it, which is something we could also work on doing at a later time, right? You probably have to experience it to actually feel what it's all about, right? But the other thing that this type of classroom environment that we use actually uses, right? That actually allows for, in addition, you have the intimacy, right? Engagement, ability to track, right? It helps to augment and to sort of 优化, to optimize the curricular structure and the pedagogical methodology that I talked about before. And it's very fascinating in how it does that. Okay, let me try to sum up a little bit here. Because these three elements of the what, the how, and the where I've been describing are what we call the Minerva system, or you could call it the Minerva model, or I guess it's very much a philosophy, right, about education. Not just higher education, just about education. And again, it's comprised of mainly these three components we already talked about the curriculum, the what, right, which includes this whole set, 一套, of these habits of mind and structure that allows and forces, actually, students and learners to practice those habits of mind in different contexts such that they learn to far transfer. And that these things stick in your brain, which means you have to do it over and over again for 4 years. The second element of this system is the pedagogy, the 方法, the how, right? And it's all about fully active learning. No passive learning, no lectures, all active, 100%. And then finally, it's about what's called Minerva Forum, which is the where, the classroom setting, which is this highly intimate, live technology, it's online, right? Classroom experience, which is not for the faint of heart, as we say, because it's very it forces you to engage. You can't be doing what you're doing now, which is sort of listening to me, sort of not. It forces you to engage. A classroom setting forces you to engage. Why? Because the more you're engaged, the more you learn, regardless of what you're learning. Put another way, the Minerva system is this combination of the curriculum, the pedagogy, and technology that has been shown to produce superior learning outcomes over traditional university systems. Ooh, this is a big claim. And we can talk more about this. You should ask more questions about this. I will give you one bit of data that actually speaks to this. Our hypothesis many years ago was that if you took the structure, a much more intentionally structured curriculum with these habits of mind, you embedded them to allow for far transfer, you used fully active learning, and you tracked learning outcomes through the technology, through Minerva Forum. If you did all that, our hypothesis, you would see better learning outcomes. That was the hypothesis years ago, 10 years ago, before we started doing this. What we have shown since then, we've actually have been so far proving this hypothesis, right? And we've certainly been showing it, tracking our internal data, but we've also been using some third-party metrics to track as well, because it's one thing to use our own data. People could say, this is your own information, we don't believe it. But we've also used third party as well. So what we did is, amongst other things, one example is we took this, who's familiar with this? Oh, it's nothing. CLA Plus. Who knows CLA Plus? Does anyone know what that is? Okay. The CLA Plus, you could look it up, stands for Collegiate Learning Assessment. It's a 测试 that actually gauges the ability to think critically, to think creatively, to problem solve, to communicate effectively. It assesses these major 4 areas that I talked about before, which is exactly what the habits of mind are meant to do, and which is exactly what Minerva is very much into teaching, right? So perfect. This is one of several assessments out there that do this, and we use this one. We like to use this one because it's been used by hundreds of universities around the world, mainly in the United States. It's been used by thousands, probably tens of thousands of students, right? There's fairly rich data about this. And what we've been able to consistently show is that students that study in the Minerva system, after 1 year, just their freshman year, just 1 year, have been able to outperform every single other school's students who've been assessed after 4 years. So we compare our 大一 students to other people's 大四 students, and our students are already in the 99th percentile of graduating seniors, graduating 4th year students. Minerva School students, when they regularly do this assessment, the CLA Plus, the people that run the CLA Plus have been pretty amazed because they note that we consistently can show a greater improvement as well. It's not just us being in the 99th percentile, but we've been able to show a greater improvement over those of any other university students. And we're talking about tens of thousands of students over hundreds of universities. Why is this? Why can one school, why can one system do this? Why? Now we believe, it's very, very clear, and it's also pretty simple. It's because we're the only ones that use 100% of that system. You know, we use, oh, that's not working. We use, it's that combination of the curricular structure, right? So people are actually learning, purposefully, intentionally learning those skills. They're far transferring them, which makes them more effective, right? They're learning in an active way. They're not passively learning, so the learning is very effective. And then we're able to track student learnings after every single class, even during every single class, and give feedback to students immediately. That helps them contextualize and be cognizant of their learnings, right? And this really doesn't happen elsewhere, at least to our knowledge, right? And so maybe if that's the case, it's not surprising that this is actually more effective. Ooh. My computer has, and that's why it's probably not surprising that not only has a third-party metric like the CLA Plus shown some very interesting results, but every single organization, for-profit, not-for-profit, government, industry, whatever, every single organization that takes Minerva students, right, or graduates, and employs them in whatever types of role, will always say that these students, even after 1 year, perform better than their older peers after 3 or 4 years. Again, maybe perhaps not that surprising. They're interesting, but maybe not that surprising. Okay. That's it. That's what I wanted to share. I've already talked a lot. I usually don't talk that much. But 今天就是抛砖引玉, and wanted to share with you this, not only, I think we're all aware of perhaps the need for reform in education. I wanted to share with you today what some of us have been doing about it, and a solution we've actually been implementing that has been achieving very, very fascinating results. This is not just relevant for us, Minerva as an institution, and that's because, as some people know, we exist not only for the benefit of our own students and our own school, we exist for you as well. We exist to work with other reform-minded institutions around the world, right, to give and to share some of our own experience, some of our own model, some of our system for the benefit of everyone. And that's why this is relevant for Chengda, just as it's relevant for us or for anybody. Thank you.
So thanks for the great talk from Kenn. And this is a very special opportunity for us, so I would like to continue maybe a very small kind of forum time. So I will invite you to just sit a little bit. And maybe I would also like to invite our students and also faculty and staff to actually talk a little bit about what's your expectation about higher education and how, for example, from Milova's perspective, can we actually improve a little bit. Since we are actually talking about some of the future possible collaboration between Milova University and Shandong University, so we are trying to know more about your idea about what you currently care about higher education and how we can improve. So please just stay a little bit. I will just move some chairs here, and maybe two of us can sit down here and we
Should we? You want to take these chairs? Oh, we take the big chairs. Oh. I think we should sit. Oh, okay. 我们没有说我们高而一等。
所以我刚才说我觉得今天是一个特别的机会就是不好意思，就是
What?
I appreciate it to that.
Oh no, that's good. 自食其力，自食其力。
So maybe I will change in English and Chinese a little.
You can do all in Chinese. I'm fine with whatever.
所以我觉得今天是一个特别的机会，因为我们刚好在认真的在讨论说，我们有没有机会跟Milova大学一起来看一下有关于高等教育系统的一些改革的一些做法。所以其实现在should we just use Chinese?
Yeah， 都可以的，这可以的。
都可以。所以首先邀请同学们，就是对于未来的高等教育或者是你们现在要教学上的问题，刚才听到 Kenn 这样的一个介绍之后，你觉得你从你们的角色上面有没有什么事情是想跟 Kenn 请教，或者是跟所有其他同学一起聊的？你们现在教学上面的什么东西？
怎样？
我是想要问问题，是你们真正上课是在上什么样的课程？就因为每个人的嗜好跟兴趣可能也是会不一样，那就是所以是就是真正上课是教什么？
对，问得好，问得好。喂，问得好。我就发现我讲了很多 Minerva 我们这个模式的与众不同的不同，就是可能还忽略了一些我们一些。特别是表面上的同，就跟其他的那个学校的同意的。那在 Minerva， 除了就是我们有目标性的、有架构性的去教我说的这些思维习惯的，那我们也是有内容啊。就说第一就是有学科就是要社会科学什么走了自然科学什么计算机科学的都有的第一这原因有几个，第一你就是光为了学习、应用、练习那些思维习惯，你总会需要个载体啊。你没有媒介做这个东西，就是也学不进去的。而且我刚不是讲了，你需要跨学科的载体，你要 far transfer。你为了 far transfer， 你不仅是能够在一个领域做的，也要不同领域做的。那就是特别是我们大一的时候，你有个通识教育的一个不同的学科。那从大二你也开始有主修啊，就是有自修的一些那个 major and concentration， 就是表面上你会发现这个也是有啊。你问我们的学生 What is your major? They also have a major, right? But what they have that 可能 maybe here you don't have, other places you don't have, is this 思维习惯的那个训练
So just feel free to just use Chinese.
对，你就用中文好了嘛？
就是你觉得你什么语言比较舒服，什么都可以其实从那次 case 到现在，我们一直在讨论说，就是有关于 higher education 中间有关于一些，其实我觉得还蛮精彩的 habit of mind。其实 I always feel fascinated how to actually categorize those habit of mind.
Well, this is very interesting， 因为我们那个是上周还是上周嘛，就在台北就是贵校校长那个苏校长，还有黄老师，还有另外黄老师在哪里 ？C 学在哪里？就是有那个在台北见面的时候，那时候我们上学不是来到台湾，那个就发现那时候我们也是要不要说刮目相看？就是我们不知道，原来就是不知道成大也有这类似这种想法。
对。
因为这可能也不奇怪，就是说有懂得点那个 science of learning 的教育者，也多多少少就会知道这个东西的重要性那 habits of mind， 或者退一步说，你会经常，最起码在美国，你问任何美国大学，你问什么 Stanford 也好，你问什么 I don't know 什么 Michigan 也好，你问他们教什么的，他们也 也不会跟你说哦，我们叫什么数学啊，叫什么历史啊，他们说我们叫 critical thinking， 我们叫什么 creative problem solving， 好，你就问他们你怎么教啊，很有意思的，他会，因为我经常也这样问我，他们就说哦，那我们就，反正我们叫数学啊，我们叫 history 啊，然后人家哎呀，自然而然的就会领略到，就学会到这些东西。That's not the way it actually works, right? Critical thinking， 比如说不是一个东西来的， right? 它是有很多，我们自己有这个称呼思维习惯，有很多这个认知思维的模块来组成的， right? 为什么就说人家说很多有一些学校说我要教什么 critical thinking， 有的时候为什么教不来或者教不好， right? It's because it's not just one thing， 你必须得把它这样分解下来，磨解块。那比如说成大也好，什么谁也好，就是说你们要，既然就是只要你们认为你们知道，就是这个方法是有价值，是正确的道理，就是说，而且这个只不过是 science， 那你就不一定要，就是用的跟我们 Minerva 用的那个一模一样的一套。我说我们有那些什么80条，也许你说哦，我觉得只是这50条有用了。或者那天我们在台北也讲说，哎，是不是有一些可能你没有的，我们要什么加上去的啊？是否有一些，特别是跟东方文化、跟中华文化有关联的？这个有意思 ，This is interesting， right？ 也许啊，记得前2年有一个是谁？是哈佛医学院的那个院长，有一次在跟我们交流说，他说对你教这个 habits of mind is fabulous， 他就说。很棒的，那你们一定有叫 triage is a French word. I think it means like 什么事先筛选的那个意思，你应该要去查。现在不是有 Google 吗？都可以查吗 ？triage， 意思就是说，也是在医学院里面都会教说，比如说你有一大堆病人进来。你要一下子很快速的筛选谁是严重的，就是你还要谁针对谁帮助谁可以再等一下。It's called triage。以前就是那个战场的打仗战场的那个 field hospital， 就是那个医院，就是在战场的那个帐篷那个医院，那么多人就说被射的被打得一塌糊涂，进来要筛选，就是谁是最需要帮助的，要不然就马上就挂了。谁可以再等一会儿？这是 triage。But the idea of triaging， 这样筛选，这个也是也是关系到医学，但是也是跟其他的方面也是有关联。那正好我们没有一个，我们所有的思维习惯就是 hashtag 什么次等反应，什么 hashtag， 我们没有 hashtag triage。但那个时候我们就想说，哇 ，that's like a great idea. That should be, you know。如果比如说某所那个医学院呢要教的一个东西，可能要再加上一个 hashtag triage， 然后把它贯彻到不同的。
我非常快的加一个 something fascinating。对东方人来讲 ，collaboration 和谐，和谐是一个在这个文化里面非常重要的。可是我不敢说这个所谓的 mutual help or harmony can be something like a universal standard. So maybe.
But it can't. It is. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting because I study in the States, so it's kind of say everybody should conform.
你不需要这样讲中文。
我要中文，我简单的每天说这个是这样。就我是非常习惯和谐的人，你知道吗？所有的东方文化告诉我是和谐比较对。一堆人在一起的工作的时候，就和谐比较对。OK 吗 ？I used to be in a symphonic orchestra， 所以和谐很重要。但是当我到另外一个时空背景的发现，你没有自我表现，没有把重要事情讲出来的时候，是大家不会看重你。所以所以我一直觉得很有趣，就是说 habit mind 在不同的时空背景下面，它会有不同的解读。因为刚刚其实physician 也在讲 interpretation， 所以不同的 habit mind， 不同的 cognitive tool， 或许在不同的时空背景下有一些不同的解读。这个是我觉得非常非常有意思的部分，也提供给我当参考。就是我觉得很有趣。如果说今天把时空背景移到其他的国家，搞不好会有不同形态的做法和不一定。我是不是在把时间留给各位同学？有没有什么特别想聊的，就是事情？不管对任何事情，麦克风在旁边好，如果有需要的话，我帮忙。可以问，来，没问题，谢谢。你可以拿麦克风讲话，没关系。 麦克风在你左边，谢谢。
那就是我们要怎么改进自己的学习方式嘛？这样怎么问？就是我们现在也是主修某一些学科，那我们要怎么样让自己的学科跟社会现实还有未来更贴近？我们要怎么去反思我们正在学习的事情
？Oh, wait. Yeah, but I thought you were.
Okay, so maybe 我可以从我自己的观察角度来出发，就是为什么有这个机缘跟梅老板开始坐下来聊很多的事情。其实成大的第10学院就是 Collegiate， 我们一直在讲很类似的事情。你有学科的知识，可是有没有什么其他的知识是感到各位需要的？我们必须要在大学的时候也帮助大家一起 cultivate 这样的 maybe 是就是 core competency， 就是那种真正需要的事情。所以我们其实有盘点的一些事情。如果说各位有兴趣去看一下 Collegiate 的网站，我们有 ABCD， 我们有我们的analytics, be brave, communication, and design thinking and doing and empathy。那当然每一个组织每个院子其实看的东西不太一样，但是也是有非常类似的思维跟讨论，就是说当学科其实是重要的，可是又不容易踏出来的时候，当现实生活问题越来越复杂的时候，我们的学生要怎么办？连我们的 faculty 要怎么办？因为我们很希望大家将来不是要赚钱的吗？你要出去要赚钱，
那就是他
要 survive 嘛，对不对？你们要赚钱要 survive， 要能够过得好，又能帮助别人。那这件事情其实有时候不是一个说我去念设计系就可以达到这件事情，也不会说我念了会计系我就可以，他没有办法 choose 嘛。There's no department called the major responsibility 嘛，刚刚不是很有吗？就是我要让我自己是一个有责任的大人，然后我发现我不知道怎么在大学学这件事情。So okay。
对哦呀，所以说我简单来说，我觉得其实任何一所成大也可以做，别的学校可以做，也就是要把这些我说的这些思维习惯，就是贯彻到，就是 embed into your major, embed into other majors, embed into everything that you study， 而且最好是让你在不同的学科领域里面就说练这种东西。This需要一个比较系统化的一个，哪怕是从比较小开始，需要一个比较系统化的一个改革、一个改变、一个 reform， 就这样子。It needs to be systemic and systematic.
It's very interesting because I think nobody is the first system to actually see that kind of strong belief, systemic and scientific kind of evidence. This kind of pedagogy actually can change the student into a different kind of direction. 所以我觉得他们很特别，因为我们之前聊天都提到，就是我们这个是真的是被验证过，这个验证在一个特别的时空背景，不过已经受到相当的重视。还有个同学也对于说，就是教育系统啊，对于说这种解决未来问题能力，有没有什么任何的想法的 ？OK， 麦克风有，我们请前面这位同学哈。
等一下，我觉得你们没有解决到他刚刚的问题。他刚就是想要寻求一个，他可能在我不知道啊，可能在大学的时候学的东西比较迷茫吧，他不知道他该怎么样在社会上面有用啊。可是你们刚刚没有回答到一些实际问题啊，那他们还要怎么办？
没有，我是觉得说，虽然这个不能，我的建议可能不能立竿见影，不能今天明天就完全就实现。但是要看，不好意思，我把这个责任就推到成大。但是这个完全是可以，就是不久的未来也可以开始实现呢。你要让你的所学的东西更加 relevant, right? That's what everybody wants, right? In addition to whatever content you study, and the reason why maybe you don't feel like the content, what you study is relevant, 因为它就缺乏这些，你可以在不同的场合用到的这些 these competencies, these 转换能力啊 ，this is what 这个会让人家迷茫。That's what makes people me. Why do you？ 我以前也是，我读的是什么美国什么藤校啊，什么名校什么的 ，but I was the same way。因为那些学校也不教这种东西的，也就是一样的教什么教些什么历史啊，教些什么数学什么东西 ，right？If you only are learning and memorizing, particularly if you're only in just memorizing content, it can seem very 迷茫 because you cannot see how, you may be able to see how that content is relevant in a specific context, one context maybe, but you can't see how it's relevant in life, right? Overall. And remember, 也许你现在认为我明年后年什么大学毕业，我一定要什么从商啊、从政啊、什么从艺啊，也许也许你一毕业出来的时候，也许你就开始这样做。But guess what? 2-3 years afterwards, you're probably going to have to change. You'll be forced to change, right? And then you're not just going to need your 专业性的那种内容的那种知识， you're going to need these 转换能力 right? So the 具体的建议 is I would like to see every university on the planet, right, completely reform. Don't want to give you a heart attack. Completely reform, maybe over time, 不是一两天的事情, right? But over a number of years, reform their education models, right? To something. It doesn't have to be the same as ours, right? But to something that brings in a lot of these elements. And if you do, people will be less 迷茫. If you ask our students at Minerva schools, they also have majors, right? But they can apply. 他们不只是可以在他们自己的所主修的东西应用这种思维习惯，他们可以在不同的 right? 我举个例子，从大概前几年开始就是我们的大一的学生，因为我们在 Minerva schools， 我们的人在4年，他们不是在7个国家、7个城市都会那个周游列国轮番学习那他们第一年呢，都是在旧金山，就在 San Francisco 大一的时候。So 前几年呢，有一批人呢不同的背景的人，而且 Minerva schools 的人大部分不是美国人的，只有大概1到2成的学生是美国人，都是来自什么全球这么60-70个国家的人。So a couple of friends in San Francisco 是大一的学生，他们就说我们去报个 hackathon， 这些人他们不是以前高中做 hackathon 的人，他们也不是，他们这些人也不是什么都是什么计算机背景什么出来，都不是，都很杂的 right? But there were 5 or 6 kids and they said we're gonna go ball the hackathon, one of the hackathons in San Francisco, right? And again, this was after 大概他们进入了 Minerva 的几个月以后，当他们已经开始这种思维认知训练，已经开始 practice these things in multiple areas. They enter the hackathon, right? And 他们那个时候就说这5-6个人，他说叫他们另外一些同学，他说我们要试试看这种的那个思维训练，这是不是有没有实际的那个价值 ，right？ 这5-6个人再招了另外什么10几个、20几个同学，都 Minerva 的同学就加入这个 hackathon。很有意思的是，那个 hackathon 是新加坡航空的在旧金山办的一个 hackathon， 就是头等奖什么1万美金啊，什么机票什么一大堆的。Anyway， 那个时候很有意思的 ，that hackathon 1等奖、2等奖、3等奖，还有 honorable mention， 等于是4等奖，所有的奖 all Minerva student teams. None of these people, well, 可能这10几个人可能有1-2个有做过 hackathon， 但不是全部，很少这些人大部分也不是什么 computer science 背景的 right? These people were doing hackathons， 他们在跟其他的，比如说 Stanford、Berkeley students 在比较，也是在跟算是业界的 people that have done many hackathons， 也在跟他们在 competing, right? And Minerva students, and so they were like, maybe this is an aberration, maybe this is an outlier. So a bunch of these same people did it again. They entered another hackathon a couple months later, right? Very similar results. First, second, third place. There's now a group of Minerva students, at least后来他们就觉得无聊太简单但是他们大一大二的时候就会这样做 These people did not have, they're no smarter than anybody else. Our students are smart, but you're smart too. Right? 不是我们那些学生比人家聪明一点，也没有 right? 不是他们有更相关背景一点，也没有 But they were able to win these types of hackathons because the hackathon requires you to pull all these different elements together and use these 转换能力to解决复杂的问题 right? And that is what they had been practicing that's what they've been doing as part of their education, right? For at least a couple of months, if not a year or two. So that's an interesting, and anybody, this is not just something that Minerva school students can do. Chengda students could do this. Anybody, Zhengda students, anybody can do this. That's 这个很具体的建议 这有看学校。
OK， 我从成大的角度来回应同学想，我知道你大家都很迷茫，就是说你现在念的学科跟将来有什么关系，跟将来世界怎么对接。其实我从设计科技的角度，因为其实我是设计科技毕业的，我成大工设计毕业，然后回到学校来教书。我们一直觉得说，与其你大四毕业之后再开始面对复杂世界的问题，还不如你现在就开始面对复杂世界。但是为什么学生应该去面对复杂世界的问题？你们不是很多课要修吗？你们好多学分在身上，你们还要生活，你们要谈恋爱，你们要过日子。这是真的，从来不会觉得说你们现在如果要你们念的人生，你们现在就应该 quit， 对不对？你们现在就应该不要念书，直接去工作。为什么你还要留在学校里？我们有些知识的教导课程，但是我们一直在思考什么样的方法可以让你们早一点去面对现实生活的问题。所以在我的领域有一个很有趣的概念，其实中文翻叫实习，英文叫 practical。practical 是什么概念呢？就是说大学里面的某些课程的中间的某一些部分是真实社会的问题。但是呢，因为你们是学生，所以你们可以勇敢的去做，就算你们失败了，跟现实生活是完全不一样的状况。在学校里面，你可以勇敢的去做，做失败的可以改，学分拿不到可以再修，事情做不到可以再试。但是透过这个早期认识现实社会问题的一个模式，让你们在不管大一、大二、大三、大四，甚至研究所就开始接触跟现实社会类似的问题。那很多同学可能会问，其实我们上课不是都做一堆专案吗？老师也会给我题目嘛，对不对？还有 give you a topic， 就是做我们学期末要教这个，对不对？好像也是现实生活的问题。我们后来有个反思，就是说这种教学的形式，给你一个题目做完的时候，有时候那个题目呢，其实不是你自己，是老师给你。一定会有一堆人想去 hackathon， 他们才会觉得这个是 my topic，I want to work for that。所以有时候我们一直想要在大学里面创造一种新形态的，其实在我们的课里面叫做总整课程，英文叫 capstone courses。capstone courses 就是这种透过整合各式各样的能力，整合的可能是 cognitive tool， 可能是可学科能力，让你具有机会去面对真实世界的问题。而在念书的时候就做这件事。大一就可以开始，就像你们 student 在大一的时候就去开课程，我觉得这是棒到不行的事情。你为什么要等到大四毕业的时候再烦恼说，那我不知道我接下来要面对什么事情？可不可以透过学校的系统，可不可以透过老师们的帮助，让你们在早期的时候就做这件事情？那直到开始会有一些新形态的做法，我们一直很鼓励所谓的 undergrad research。当然可能同学会觉得很奇怪，说为什么我们的学校说，做研究不是应该是研究生的事情？那我们不是要你们说每一个人都在大学的时候就变成研究生，而是你这个心态 motivation 做事的方法可以调整。所以 undergrad research 是一个跨领域的 capstone 这么讲之一。所以我们一直在整理这些新形态的课程、教学形式跟方法，帮助大家在还没有踏出社会的时候就做了一点点事情。Something big, something small, that's fine。可是你没有做，就是等到大四领毕业证书，然后看到我的 degree， 对 ，come on psychology, graduate degree psychology， what's next， 对不对？我想各位其实你们现在在这边都有一个主修，那下一步会是什么？好像不应该等到拿到 degree 的那个附近，大四就在 panic， 或者是到接近 senior 的时候，我觉得，这是从学校的部分，我们现在在想的事情。好，还有没有什么想要跟我们反馈的？我们这边有麦克风，也可以 rotate， 有什么事情想问的，那可以在这边，谢谢。来。
我是想分享一下，就是我高中的，就是因为我高中是在中山女高，然后现在有在做翻转教育。那我就是觉得刚听完之后就感觉也蛮像，就是在那段时间，就是老师比如上国文课，他就会出给我们一些题目，然后就是他有些是还蛮会接近现实，就是可能从古文去探讨，就是现在的世界，就是现在的社会如果有这些问题要怎么办？那我自己觉得说，然后那个时候老师也会教我们一些领导人的思维，就是他会在课堂之中也传递，就是说他期望我们这一班的人就是要有这样的，就是你有了 critical thinking 之后，你以后到社会里面就是你要成为领导者这样的身份。对，然后我自己觉得那2年的生活对我而言是 有很大的改变。而且我们班上的同学就是他们执行事务的能力就会很好。
好的，也是个例子。
单纯分享，然后只是想说，就不知道你们知不知道翻转教育这一块。
OK。
好啊，That's good, that's good, yeah. 哪个中学？你说中山女中？哦呀。
How about the long-term success of Minerva students? Do you have any data to back that?
No. We have. Depends on how you define long-term, because we haven't been around for necessarily that long, right? So, but we have plenty of data. I'll tell you what data we do have, in addition to sort of like say CLA plus data, our own internal data. So, we're very, very focused on outcomes, right? Both learning outcomes in terms of the type that I mentioned here, either by our own internal metrics or even by some third-party metrics, right? So there are those outcomes, right? And we track outcomes in ways that I think a lot of other institutions probably can't, right? So that's one good thing. The second thing is that we also, that's one big bucket of sort of data that we have. The other big area of data has to do with the performance of Minerva students and graduates in the real world setting, in like with companies or in graduate schools or stuff like that. So, we have one class of graduates, 有一届的毕业生，有一批毕业生是去年毕业的，今年也马上，就那些在台北的那批人，今年就要毕业了，5月份就要毕业 right? However, so we have that class, and I'll talk about that class in a minute, which is amazing outcomes. Even before our students 毕业, even before they graduate, remember? About 90%多 of Minerva 大一的学生, right? And then 大二 and 大三, they do meaningful internships and research during the summer, right? We actually have a group within Minerva that actually helps them with this. We have a very aggressive professional development. So we've been tracking all of our students, right, since the summer of 2015. So we have some interesting employer and internship data from 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. That's 5 years of that data. We also have data from the school year, because some of our students do a little bit of work study. They do a little bit of work per week during the school year, sometimes for external employers, right? They're allowed to do a little bit according to their visa, right? It's just a little bit, right? Not too much, because So what this data from just our students shows us, right, is that, and I shared this with on the one slide, that even after 1 year at Minerva, our students after他们读完大一以后, right, after their first year, right, we like to compare the feedback from employers or research institutions about them, right? We want feedback, and we want to compare our first year students with, like, you know, Yale 4th year students, right? We like to do that because we want to prove a hypothesis that even after 1 year at Minerva, and the CLA Plus 已经证明这个验证这个 hypothesis, we want to be able to show in the workplace that our students are able to 应用 and actually apply these skills to effectively analyze problems, to effectively come up with innovative solutions, to effectively interact and communicate better than their peers who are several years older. This is what we sort of set out to do. And the data that we've gotten from employers is that pretty much 100%, it's almost 100%, I don't know if it'll always be 100%, 到目前为止是基本上是 100%, of the employers who employ Minerva students when they're still at Minerva say that these students after 1 year perform better at any of these roles than students that are in 3rd or 4th year at other top schools. So this is one big area of data that's interesting. The final thing I'll mention is the graduates, 就去年的毕业生, because that's very interesting as well. About 100 of them. So because those students, 去年毕业的那些人，当他们是刚读完大一、读完大二的时候，他们已经做过类似我说的那些 internships，and we were getting feedback about them. So 当他们毕业的时候 ，right? They already were operating at levels higher than most other university graduates, which means that the types of jobs and the types of opportunities that they received were much higher. For example, students in that class who went to work for Uber or research at Santa Fe Institute or Google, they went to these companies, but they're now working in roles that are 就一般的，比如说一个 Harvard 毕业生就是这样出来的。The Minerva students are almost always given opportunities which are higher because of their experience working when they're in school, because of the abilities they are able to prove. 凡是有雇过 Minerva 学生的任何的机构、企业什么的 everybody knows. Everybody's like, these students can do so much more, and that's why they give them these other opportunities. Then 去年的毕业生有小批嘛，大概就10几个%的，是直接上研究所。大部分我们那边大部分的人还是先去工作的，但有一小部分也是直接上研究所哈。And 我记得从很早以前就很多人，包括学生，包括家长，就问我说：“你们这毕业以后，哪怕找到工作的，那就研究所怎么办呢？”就很多人问了 ，right? And we said from a long time ago， 因为我们的课程这个设计啊什么的各方面，也就是从很早以前开始，也是去参考过 what graduate schools would want to see. Graduate schools， 我记得哈佛医学院的那个院长好几年前也说过，说看我们这套思维习惯的这种架构，以及我们这个训练那个模式，说我希望每一个进来我这医学院的人，我希望他有这种教育背景。I want everybody to have this, right? Because of that， 去年毕业的这些人呢，大概我说只有10几个人，因为就100多个，总共100人，10几个人就是去申请研究所 ，right? Only one. But interestingly enough, everybody that applied to these, if they applied to 都是百发百中。We had 4 or 5 students apply to very competitive programs at Harvard, 3 at Columbia. Everybody gets in. Interesting. Now, 也许不能永远那样 I don't know, right? But it's very interesting to see that even at the graduate school level, the graduate schools very 认可 the Minerva type of education. And again, it's perhaps not surprising, but there's been very, very compelling results so far. 再打开。
How about the sample size? How many students does Minerva accept each year?
Good question. So we have, and Minerva schools is small, but this is, 你问这个问题的 is, I'm going to talk, this is good question, right? Because it relates to other stuff, as I'm sure you know. So Minerva schools is relatively small. 我们第一届的人只有100多个人毕业，今年会有个大概130、40个，慢慢的我们就成长。但是说 we're still not big. 我们目前4届下来，大概4年加起来大概只有620-30个人左右。我们比较小，因为他们最清楚就是说，to run a school is a lot of to actually run our own school, right? We run our own school, right? 我们自己就是营运 operate Minerva 大学，主要有2个目的。第一就是说 we want to 培养更多的有这种教育背景的人 ，right? And we want to do some of it ourselves. And the other 另外一个目的就是说，我们要证明给大家看，这种系统这种模式是非常有效的 ，right? But we are still relatively small, right? The way that maybe 也许你问题后面还有个问题，也许没有，但是我还是先继续说。Is that even though we're relatively small and we only take in about 150 students per year, right? This is relevant, of course, for more people. It's relevant because Minerva, since 从前年从2018年开始 Minerva has begun to work with other universities to help them on reform efforts, right? So many universities around the world, 包括成大, have ideas and plans for reform, right? And Marsha was talking a little bit about that, right? And we learned a little bit about that before, right? And Minerva is able to, we believe, there are many ways that we could actually help people with that reform. And that is how 我们就扩大我们这种 philosophy 的影响力。也许你没有问到这些，但是我还是要说到这些。Yeah.
Another question about your slide, you show that the freshmen score at the 99th percentile on CLA, but you didn't compare with like when they got admitted to Minerva.
I love it. Yes, he's asking the right questions. You guys, he's asking good questions because this is like data, like you have to have like data analysis of this. I'll share that with you. It's not in the slide. So Minerva Schools. 也许你有听说 Minerva Schools 我们自己的学校我们比较挑就是录取生我们很挑 So what we do with the CLA Plus is 我们学生一进来他们还没有开始的时候 like you know they just 报到 right we have them take the CLA Plus the first time and because we're very selective we choose very intellectually strong students you're right our students when they come to Minerva on average, the average I think is running at, they are in the 78th, 78 percentile of all graduating seniors. So they're doing better than most seniors, like they haven't even gone to college, right? But yet they can still actually apply these skills even better than most university seniors, right? Which is a bit scary. It's not great for our students, it's actually bad for other people, mainly American university students. But what is interesting is the delta. That difference between the 78% and the 98%, right? Such that after 1 year, they can go from being 78 percentile, very, very strong, and they already start very strong, then to going up to, you know, in the 99th percentile. But it does create a bit of a challenge, is because after, where do you go from there? You're already at 99%, sort of where do you go from there, right? Maybe we need to find or define some new or additional metrics to actually help us actually measure at that very, very high level. It's a good question. I can think of other good questions you should be asking too. Let's see.
So, very quick comment from NCTU side. Maybe I'll start in Chinese. So, 成大有一个非常非常特别的传统，我们的大学生受到企业重度的一个非常非常深度的喜爱。成大发生的企业真是爱。可是其实我们一直有一个深深的感觉，就像刚刚Kenn来讲，就是说，或许没办法学生在进入业界的时候，他已经在一个不同的 level 了。而我们的学生是企业界的最爱，我们真的能够帮企业做很多很多的事情，搞不好我们是 entry level 的非常非常棒的 employee。
因为你们有这种
对，因为我们有非常 solid 的 training， 而且老实讲，我也是成大毕业，我知道那个整个成大氛围是大家是非常努力实做的。但是我们在学校的高度一直在担心，就是说我们怎么把大家从这个 level 往上加一层。所以你们进去一个企业，不是从那个 entry level 开始做最 solid， 我们说 maybe 最 tedious 的小事情，而是开始有 vision， 开始可以想 strategy， 开始可以 drive 一些事情。那这样的能力或许不是成大系统一开始就是把它当成 first priority 在大家身上，就是说一起希望大家一起努力。所以我们会发现大家的学科能力都非常非常好，解决问题能力也非常非常棒。可是你跟他讲说，我希望你1年之后变成 manager， 他们就说哇，那怎么办？我们有什么新的能力需要加强？所以我们一直在担心这件事。这也是后来在学校这边，不管是 College Penn 或者其他形式的 educational initiative， 我们试着要让大家有机会在一个新的开发点上往前走。
也许啊，就是你们这边还有一个挑战，就是因为由于这边企业文化的关系啊，阶级概念呢，就是比较，你们这是你们一个挑战，啊。
我觉得这是一个很特别的状况，所以这其实我们还蛮高兴，就是说有一个机会哈，其实也特别请看来，我们来看一下，就是说不同的国度、不同的教育系统，从一个您刚刚说大概几百个人的大学到成大可能1万5千万，对。我们的系统实际上非常非常大，从一个非常非常激进的教育革新，到在一个大型的组织里面，要应各位同学的需求，希望做一些革新。其实我们有非常不一样的 tempo， 但是我们有个机会刚好坐下来可以聊一下，也是今天这个机缘，能够请Kenn来跟我们分享关于这个未来大学、未来教育的想象。我们最后一点，
现在大学。
Future University
now.
对啊，so tomorrow is kind of this。其实每个大学其实都在想类似的事情。我们其实你在成大立场来讲，我们不可能就是用现在的制度一直往前走，然后预想说，那我们知道怎么样更好。我们一直在想新的事情。我们最后一点点时间啊，在座有任何的同学或者是老师，甚至就是工作伙伴，就是校部上面工作伙伴有什么任何的想法，请他讨论。如果没有的话，我想今天是不是就到这边？也感谢各位同学、各位伙伴的帮忙，然后谢谢Kenn今天到这边来，谢谢。
好，谢谢，谢谢。
下问题啊，可以讨论，谢谢各位。